Welcome to the RSVP Northern Virginia podcast, where each week we'll take a look at some of the outstanding volunteer opportunities available to seniors in our area. I'm your host, Rob Paine, an outreach assistant with RSVP. Hi, and welcome to another RSVP podcast. Today we are joined by Patti Senft, the volunteer ambassador with Junior Achievement of Greater Washington and Fairfax. And we also have with us our volunteer specialist, Carly Hubicki. Good morning, Carly and Patti.
Good morning to both of you. Yes. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thanks for having us here. Carly and I just took a tour of Financial Park, which is run by Junior Achievement in Fairfax City. And it is an awesome place. It is shockingly awesome. And we're going to talk about today some of the great programs that JA does both at Financial Park and outside of Financial Park, and also some of their volunteer needs. Patti, let's start. You have such a wide array of programs here. In a nutshell, how do you describe what Junior Achievement does?
That's a great question. So our goal is to inspire and empower our young students to meet the demands of a 21st century global economy. And we do that through three distinct pillars and programs that we have. The first one being work readiness, to get our students ready to be great employees out there. The second component is financial literacy, and that's where we are today at our finance park in Fairfax, where we have our financial literacy component. And then the third one is entrepreneurship for those young students that think about starting their own business. So those are the three key areas that we focus on.
That's excellent. And just give people, listeners, an idea of how students get involved with JA. Is it through their school, or do they sign up on their own? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. So students typically will find out about JA through their school, through their teacher. For our finance component, the financial literacy, we have an agreement with the Fairfax County Public School System that the entire 8th grade middle school system will come through our program here at Finance Park for a hands-on digital simulation, teaching students about financial literacy. They can also ask their teacher about in-classroom programs. We don't just serve our 8th grade population, we serve K through 12. So we have programs all the way starting at a very young age, all the way through 12th grade. We are a global organization, so we're on every continent, and we've been around since 1919. So this is tried, tested, the curriculum works. So there are many different ways that students can get engaged. But check with your school, check with your teacher, or go out to our website, myja.org. Reach out to us. We're here to serve our students.
That's excellent. Now, one of the things that I think you mentioned and you talked a lot about on your website is financial literacy. Now, that sounds like a big term. How does JA define financial literacy, and why is being financially literate so important in today's times?
Absolutely. Well, it's very topical, right? So for those of us that remember a few years back, 2007, 2008, the Great Recession, so this financial literacy program kind of came out of that as a mandate by Virginia and Maryland that all 8th graders will come through a financial literacy program. Is there one set single definition? No, we look at it in terms of different components of financial literacy. So teaching students how to manage a budget and working within that budget. And first and foremost, we teach them the distinction between what they need versus what they want. Just like real life, we're not always able to buy everything we want because it's expensive and we'll be running up our credit cards. So we're teaching them to be good stewards of their money, of their budget. The other component we teach them first is this concept of pay yourself first. And what that is teaching students to set aside, have a savings goal. and start saving at a very young age so that they can be comfortable when they get ready to retire, which, as we know from '08, a lot of people lost their retirement savings, had to go back to work, found themselves without a job. So we want to give our students the financial skills to be able to work within their financial means, within their budget, to focus on what they need versus what they want.
Now, does part of your program also sort of teach people in a way how businesses run to a certain degree?
Absolutely. So that's our other component when we talk about work readiness. And we have, some of your listeners may be familiar with the JA Company program or BizTown that they themselves might have heard about or even participated in. And so what these programs do is they teach young students how to be prepared to be a good employee, and BizTown teaches them the different operations of a business and how a business might run and how they fit into that. And then absolutely our entrepreneurship program, something near and dear to my heart, is an after-school program in some areas. And then we also have a summit that teaches young students how to prepare to start and grow their own business.
So outside of the financial park program during the day, there are other programs that kids can get involved with during the evening?
Yeah, great question, Rob. So here at Finance Park, we have one of my associates, Gail Robinson, runs our JA Company program, which she just started a few weeks ago. It's on Monday evenings from 5 to 7 p.m. every week. She's working with about 15 students, and that will run through April. And in that program, she is working with these students to develop a product or service that they will actually bring to market. So they're coming up with something that will fulfill a need that is out in the community. And if I may put in a little plug right now that entrepreneurs out there, that if you'd like to come in and share your experience or maybe get involved to come in and speak to these kids, feel free to reach out to me and I'll get you connected.
And that would be another volunteer opportunity, which we're about to talk about.
Nice segue, right?
There you go. Now, you all, and Carly remarked, just been walking around, that you all are very dependent on volunteers here. You don't have a gigantic staff. You have incredible support from the business community. Right. But tell us about your volunteer needs and how folks listening to this today can help you out.
Absolutely, thank you. You make my job so much easier with this as the volunteer ambassador. So we need a minimum of 18 volunteers each day to run the simulation at Finance Park. And so we work with parent volunteers that may have a student that's coming through the finance simulation, work with community volunteers such as from RSVP, we've gotten a number of volunteers, and then also our corporate volunteers. So today we happen to have a group from the Carlisle group, we have community volunteers, and then we also have our parent volunteers. So 18 volunteers a day to run this simulation. We do about 130 a year. That's just in Fairfax County alone. We have the identical program in Prince George's County. They need 16 volunteers a day. Their facility is just a little bit smaller. And then we have our in-classroom programs that we need volunteers for throughout the day, and where the volunteers are actually in the classroom, whether it's K, first, second grade, all the way through high school, where they'll be with the students for a day.
That's really great. And I think we were talking earlier that folks don't have to be pre-trained. They don't have to have financial backgrounds to do this. They show up in this room we're actually sitting in today, conference room. You actually have like an orientation or a briefing session on the spot. Is that, can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely, right? So no financial literacy is required. So that makes it perfect for someone like me. I'm married to a CPA, but that's as much financial literacy, formal training that I have. Kid a little bit. But what we ask our volunteers is just to come in and they're going to act like adult mentor role models. So using their life experience to help guide the students through the simulation simulation or through the in-classroom program. And the training that we do, or the orientation, is about an hour. So on the day of the simulation that the volunteers are coming in, they'll arrive an hour before the students do. We'll take them on a tour of the park. We'll show them a little video, and we'll get them comfortable with what their assignment is. And when I talk about assignment, each volunteer is going to be given a storefront. So they might be talking about transportation. They might be talking about credit cards or savings or healthcare or clothing. And so they'll even get a little laminated card that gives the key talking points, and they're really written for an 8th grade audience. So it's a lot of fun. Just come with an open mind and ready to bring your life experience in assisting these students.
That's really great. And as we're talking about this, for those of you watching this on YouTube, we're going to flash up a couple of pictures of the inside of Financial Park, which is just awesome when you walk in there. Can you tell us a little bit about how those stores came to be? You have, again, incredible sponsorship, and you even have, we're thrilled, a special store on
Philanthropy. It's a tongue twister, right?
and volunteerism, which is near and dear to our heart. Just tell us a little bit about the support you get from the community.
Yeah, absolutely. So our facility here opened up in 2010. Our signature sponsor is Capital One, and we can't thank them enough. They provided the funding for this building, for this structure, so upwards of $1 million. And then our structure, if you can picture it and you'll be able to see it, it's like a small mall. And each, there's a storefront for 18 different budget line items that has been generously donated by our various corporate sponsors. So we have Apple Federal Credit Union, we have State Farm, we have Dominion, Cox, a number of storefronts that support this simulation for the students.
That's fantastic. And you touched on this a little bit, but let's go back to the volunteer opportunities for a second. Now, again, you have the folks that come here during the week for the Financial Park, and then I know one of our volunteer all-stars, Ken Kozloff, is very involved with JA. What type of, and he does stuff sort of outside of Financial Park, or both, or just talk a little bit about the outside.
Yeah, so really we have to give huge props to Ken because he practically lives here. I'm not sure when he sleeps.
We're not either. We're trying to figure that one out.
So yeah, I first met Ken a couple years ago when we had our pilot program for our week-long entrepreneurship summit, which runs in a week in June, usually about the first week of June. And that is kind of a summer school program for rising high schoolers to develop a product or service. And so we have volunteers that come in and talk about marketing and customer surveys and how to write a business plan and whether they can make money with their product and service. So those are great volunteer opportunities, especially for entrepreneurs in the community that can come in and talk about how they started their business and some of the obstacles that they had to overcome and some of the challenges. So that's one of the unique programs that we have. Also, our in-classroom programs, I think I mentioned a little bit. Ken and I were actually at Campbell Elementary School earlier this week, where Ken was volunteering in the classroom. I think he had 3rd or 4th graders, I'm not sure. I was volunteering with 1st graders. And we also had some volunteers from PNC that were working with 5th and 6th graders. So the in-classroom program is designed for each specific grade level. And so our volunteers, they'll get a packet, they'll have very detailed instructions of how to manage their day and to go through a number of different components and sessions. So we have plenty of in-classroom volunteer opportunities as well.
That's fantastic. And Carly, if somebody wants to, for those people who might be listening to this and not be RSVP volunteers yet, just give us a quick idea of what they want to do next after they hear this video.
Yes, of course. So definitely go to our website at rsvpnova.org. Check it out. Also, if you just want to contact us directly, you can email us at rsvp@volunteerfairfax.org. So we love to hear from you. And I also make a plug for Patti. Probably ongoing in our newsletter, we'll have JA opportunities whenever she needs more volunteers out here at Finance Park. So keep an eye out for that. I'll send out that monthly newsletter, and then the newsletter will also be on the website.
And you actually featured at JA
In the
month.
December.
You did,
Yeah,
yes, and thank you.
A few days ago.
Yeah, thank
now-
you, Carly.
Yeah, no, she does that newsletter is fantastic. And final question. Now, I would imagine one of the reasons that you guys are sort of drawn to RSVP in particular is because, well, number one, our experience and the time, a lot of retired people are available in the day. But in your own words, could you sort of give us an idea of why you guys enjoy working with RSVP and senior volunteers in general?
Yeah, absolutely. And let me just thank the RSVP community of volunteers. You're fantastic. We've gotten a number of great volunteers through RSVP. The reason that I really like that volunteer group is you bring life experience to the table. You're enthusiastic, and it really is reflected in how the students relate to the volunteers from RSVP. And we know that you're dependable. You've been in the workforce, or you've had your own job, or you're familiar with what it takes to be successful in life, and that really comes through. And the fact that a lot of your volunteers have free time is fantastic because the volunteer commitment is several hours. So I didn't really talk about that, Rob, but for our Finance Park, the volunteer commitment is 4 hours. The very first time you come in, it's 5 hours for the 1 hour of training. After that, returning volunteers, it's 4 hours. It's during the week, typically mirrors school hours, so you can expect about a 9:30 to 1:30. There are smaller, shorter duration volunteer opportunities for in-classroom, where you might come in 1 hour a day for several weeks. So that's another possibility. Or you can do it all at once, the way I did it, the way Ken did it, where you're in a classroom for about 5 hours. During a normal school period, so.
And, sorry, excuse me.
It's okay. It's that time of year, a little coughing going around.
I was doing almost okay.
You were doing so fine.
And then Carly, y'all were talking earlier, people can just show up on a given day, or do they have to, once they're in the volunteer system here, can they just show up on a given day, or do they have to call you ahead of time, or how does that work?
Yeah, great question, and thanks for asking that. So what we ask our volunteers is they can contact me if they'd like to come in and volunteer. And I think you'll have my contact info. Yep. We invite you to come out to our registration link, which can be found on myja.org, drill down to Fairfax County. This way we know whether we have enough volunteers, or if we're light on volunteers, and we can be prepared to assign you to a storefront. I'd love to say walk-ins are welcome, and I don't want to turn anyone away, but because this is a highly structured program that runs like a fine-tuned machine, we do want to know if you're coming in so that we can give you the necessary instructions and what time to arrive and what to expect.
Are there certain times of the week, days of the week, or times of the year where you tend to need more people than others, or is it pretty consistent?
It's pretty consistent. We do get a little light on volunteers around the holiday time, as you might imagine. We struggle sometimes a little around Thanksgiving and around the Christmas, December holiday season. But it's a Monday through Friday. It mirrors the school system. And so, again, we try to make it as easy as possible for our volunteers, and most of all, that you all have a fun time.
That's great, and that's what we're all about too. We definitely want to stress we want our volunteers to enjoy what they're doing, and Carly and Nadia in particular do everything they can to make sure that happens, along with our great workstation partners. One final thing here, I want to just add one more, just to reiterate what you were saying. These are not super early hours, so that's nice. You don't have to be going around during rush hour for the most part.
Right.
And then secondly, in the school program, volunteers all over Northern Virginia or just Fairfax County can participate in local schools. Does it go further than Fairfax County?
Absolutely. So Alexandria City Schools, Arlington, so very broadly what falls under the umbrella of Fairfax County, even though we know we have the City of Falls Church and so forth. We have this similar finance park in Prince George's County. They do a little less on the in-classroom side of the house. We're going to open a finance park in Montgomery County in the fall of 2018. So volunteers we know in the DC metro area you may live in Maryland but work in Virginia, or maybe you live in Virginia but you like to go out to Maryland. So we don't place any restrictions on where our volunteers come from, but we do want to make it geographically convenient for you.
So if somebody, I get where I'm going with that is if somebody's down in Lorton and maybe they don't drive a lot, or maybe they don't want to drive all the way up to Fairfax City, it's possible that at some point you might have a program at, I don't know, South County High School.
Yes, I'm
like
tracking
that.
with you now, absolutely.
Okay,
so that would be the in-classroom programs that might be closer to you in your community if you don't want to, like you said, Rob, drive a distance.
Anybody who doesn't live in Central Fairfax.
It doesn't.
You have opportunities all over the place.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Patti, thank you again for chatting with us today. Thank you for, and I want to say again, and Carly and I were just talking about this before this interview, I don't think you can fully appreciate what this place is until you come here. It's just remarkable. I also want to thank Patti ahead of time. Before this podcast airs, she's going to be at one of our lunch and learns in Fairfax next Monday. So thank you for that, and we hope to come back sometime and come here again. And I'm sure you probably won't be surprised to see either one of us or both of us volunteer at some point.
Fantastic.
It's that cool of a place. So thank you so much, and thank you guys for being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Nadia, and to the entire team at RSVP and to the volunteer community. We couldn't do this without you. So that is one of the best gifts that you can give, is your gift of time, and we really appreciate it and wish everyone a wonderful holiday season.
Great. Thank you again, and we will talk to y'all next week with another podcast. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Thank you for joining us today on the RSVP Northern Virginia podcast. For Carly Hubicki and Nadia Hoonan, this is Rob Paine saying thanks and have a great day. And remember, RSVP Northern Virginia, matching great senior volunteers with great opportunities. For more information, please visit our website at www.rsvpnova.org. Have a great day.